September 12th.
And that would be live stream. We were there this past
We
week.
went,
Oh, did you?
we went
Okay.
Tuesday morning at 10:30 and we just bought tickets at the box office and got right in.
So
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was not
Okay,
line.
great. And I don't know you. I'm Joyce.
I'm Michael.
I'm Michael.
And James.
James, nice to meet you.
Hi, Michael. James, I'm with her.
Okay, all right. Hi. I've
I've
been.
been.
I'm going to,
It does. Hello.
thanks, Dave.
I have a computer.
Thank goodness for that.
I know.
So, I think that this is probably time to get ready to start. Is that right?
It's about right, yeah.
Just need to find my Zoom screen so that oh, there it is. Okay. So that I can share when I need to. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Joyce Fletcher. I am a total non-expert about FRIDA KAHLO, but my colleague over here, Joanne, roped me into doing this. I'm a volunteer at the FRIDA KAHLO exhibit. I'm a former employee at College of DuPage. I was a counselor there for 30 years. And so I know a little bit, but not a lot. And I thought maybe we could start by introducing ourselves, and maybe on a scale of 0, I just heard about her today, to 10, I could teach a college course on her. Where would you put yourself in your knowledge about FRIDA KAHLO? And do you have you gone to the exhibit? No, we heard from some who have, because we've been talking in this room, but maybe we can hear people online. So should we start with the people online? How about Carolyn, you just came in. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So Carolyn Faber, member of St. Mark's for 10 years, I think. And yes, I have been to see the FRIDA KAHLO exhibit 2 times. And it was, both were profound experiences for me. So seeing her in person is very different than seeing her images in a book.
And oh, now I have another expert that just came in. Thanks. So Carolyn is an art student also at College of DuPage and an artist in her own right. So I think she'll have some great things to add to us. And did you tell us on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I know nothing about FRIDA KAHLO, I just heard about her this morning, to 10, I could teach a college course on her, where would you put yourself?
I think I'm probably at a 6, or yeah, I think I'm probably at a 6.
Good, because I'm at a 3, so you can take over from here. Lindsay, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Lindsay, and I'll turn on my video a little later, but I love art. I've heard of FRIDA KAHLO, and I was going to give myself a 3, but you just gave yourself a 3, and I'm sure I'm no less than you, so I have to downgrade to a 1.5 or something. You know, I've definitely heard of her, seen some of her artwork, but I've never really taken the time to get to know it, and looking forward to the opportunity to do so today.
I should give myself a 10 because I've taught a lot of college courses where I knew less than I know about.
Okay, so maybe just teach you the college courses at the 10. Okay, how about Kim? Are you there, Kim? How about Laura?
I'm Laura. I'm the person doing the techie stuff. I was going to put myself at a 2, but if Lindsay is at a 1.5, I'm going to have to go negative. I know she was in the movie. That's what, and I know Unibrow, and that's it. That's all I know. So
Yeah, that's pretty iconic, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. That's all I know.
So I'm gonna go around the room here and have people introduce themselves. And so, I don't know, I can. Jan.
I'm Jan Langford, and I was actually a docent at the FRIDA KAHLO exhibit, and then 8 weeks ago I had an accident on the prairie path and fractured my kneecap and couldn't docent. So I only worked like 2 times, and then but they gave us all this literature and reading material, and as I was convalescing, I was reading up on it a lot. So she just had an absolutely fascinating life, and the exhibit is just, has everybody seen the exhibit?
Not everybody.
It's absolutely wonderful, and the fact that it's come to the College of DuPage and is so accessible to us, free parking, you don't have to, you could drive there easily unless you can't drive like me, but it's just wonderful. So I really encourage everybody to see it.
And Beth. Hi, I'm Beth. And what am I supposed to say? You're supposed to say, on a scale of 0, I know nothing about Rita, I just heard about her this morning, to 10, I could teach a college class on her, where you are, and if you've been to the exhibit.
I went to the exhibit, saw the movie, the 3 movies.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If you don't know this, the Glen Ellen Theater is showing the FRIDA movie on Thursday
at 7:30.
Thursday at 7:30, all through August, and it's free. So, if you want to see it in the theater, you can do that. Okay, and behind me.
I'm Michael Fairleys, and just saw the exhibit on Tuesday morning. That much prior to then, and so I'd say probably I'm at a 1, but thoroughly enjoyed the exhibit.
I think after seeing the exhibit, you have to be at least a 2
You
or
do.
3, don't you?
I'll take it. Thank you.
And I'm Jim Turley. Michael and I went together with another friend. What I found most interesting was the tragic life that she lived. This was a horrible life she endured, that in that day and age she could have survived something like that.
Sorry, I got distracted with my coffee.
Work.
So what are you guys gonna do today?
Really kind of.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Do we know what that background voice is? Carolyn, is it you? There. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Better.
Ben.
Hi, and I'm Ben Maxon. So I grew up in Mexico City, so my dad used to take me to Diego Rivera's murals, and so I kind of grew up with that. And then I lived in Detroit for 15 years, and of course they have beautiful murals up there. So actually FRIDA KAHLO was kind of a addendum, and so I learned about her, but mostly Diego Rivera. So it's been kind of interesting to see how she is. And he even said that she's better than I am.
Right.
And
She really emerged from his.
right, yeah, so she was in his shadow for a long time, and she's emerged into, people appreciate what she's done to become almost a patron saint in Mexico now.
Right. And we have our visiting priest, Father Steve, is it?
It is.
Right.
I'd put myself maybe at a 3 or so. I've been aware of FRIDA and Diego for decades and stuff, but art history is not one of my stronger disciplines. So I learned a lot by going to the exhibit. Really enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you. So after being at the exhibit, where do you put yourself 0 to 10?
I'd say about a 3.
Okay. Joanne.
So you all are so humble. I've seen the movie, which makes me mad. But not really, no. So I would say probably a 2 or so. I saw the movie first and did a little bit of reading around it, but not a whole bunch of knowledge. I am very interested in her relationship with Chavela Vargas, which let's just say is very interesting. And she is, her music is amazing. And, you know, I wonder how they played off of one another in Diego too. Just, very interesting to me. I hope to see the exhibit soon.
I hope you do too. You got to see it soon or you won't see it.
Uh-oh.
They just extended.
They extended it
another
to,
week till
right, to the
September
12th.
Okay, okay.
David,
Hi.
did I wake you up?
No, I'm a 10 in everything just because, you know, no, just kidding. I would say I've fairly recently, I mean, I've been aware of her for a long time. I've recently come to know a bit more about her. But I just give myself maybe a 9.5. No, just kidding. Probably a 4.
Okay. So we have a number of us who have been to the exhibit.
And I've been to the exhibit.
And some of you who haven't been yet and need to go. So I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides here for you just to kind of introduce the subject. If I can find them. Oh, there it is.
I need to reevaluate the negative because when I was talking about the movie, I meant Coco. So yeah, I really don't know.
What was that?
She meant Coco in the movie.
Oh,
where FRIDA appears.
Where FRIDA appears
Posthumously.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to. Oh, I didn't mean to push share. Whoops. How do I get out of that? Okay. Sorry, I've got too many things open here, so I'm having a hard time. No, I just have a hard time finding the present button. I push the share button instead of the present button.
There we go.
Okay. So the reason that this is being included in the adult education is, as we talked about, this exhibit is right in our back door at College of DuPage. And it's actually quite phenomenal that an exhibit of this size and stature is at a community college. But it has been and will be through September 12th. As Jan said, it was extended a week. But some of the background of how College of DuPage got the exhibit is kind of interesting. So there's a local businessman here in Glen Ellen, Alan Peterson, who would go to things at the Mackinac Arts Center. And if you haven't been to that facility, it is really an impressive arts center for a community college. And he loved going to things at the MAC, and he was talked to Diana Martinez, who's the executive director of the MAC, and said, you know, I'd like to do something that will put the MAC on the map. And he knew I think it's, Jan probably can tell me this, is the curator of the Dolores Amato Museum, is it her grandson or nephew or something?
He's the curator.
Right. And Alan Peterson knew him. And so Alan put Diana in touch with the museum, and they were able to get this exhibit. Now, anecdotally, I've heard that the Art Institute of Chicago called the Dolores Almeida Museum and said, what the heck? You're going to College of DuPage? Do you not know who we are? And they said, we do what Alan Peterson wants. So unfortunately, Alan Peterson and his wife, Millie, both passed away before this exhibit premiered. So that's the sad thing, but that's why it was brought here. And what was brought here from the Dolores Almeida Museum is our 29 original pieces of art. And she was a friend of Diego Rivera's and FRIDA's, and Diego handpicked the pieces of art that he wanted her to have. And so these are special pieces of art, 29 pieces of art. But when you go to the exhibit, you'll find that it's not just the art you're looking at. The College of DuPage did an incredible job really creating a very comprehensive exhibit. And I'll tell you a little bit, I'll show you the different parts of that a little bit later, but it's just a really amazing exhibit. The timeline is incredible. They had an artist from Chicago create a bed similar to the bed that she had when she was convalescing. Some of you who've seen the movie with Selma Hayek probably remember that, where her mother and father brought in an easel for her because she was painting on her body cast. And then they put a mirror up above the bed so that she could paint herself. And that began her self-portraits. And she's really known for her self-portraits. You see that a lot in her art. So I thought we could start by just watching a really brief clip that was done by the Art Center in preparation, letting people know what was coming. And I put on here too, Ben, you were asking about tickets. If you go Tuesday or Thursday afternoon after 2, you can get tickets for $10. Otherwise, they're about twice that. So, so that's just a special that they're doing, and it's good to know about. So I'm going to play this video. And first I've got to get to the video. Here we are. Oh, are you not going to?
We muted, so.
We're muted, so you can't hear it.
You really need to hear it.
How can I?
Let's unmute it real quick. See what happens.
Yeah, if I unmute it and she mutes, will that make a difference?
Should work. Should work. Worst comes to worst, we have a little bit of an echo. It should be fine.
Okay. Sorry about this, folks. There's so much going on here right now. Let me see if I can exit out of it. Okay, let's see. Well, we just may not be able to play my videos. I had 2 videos. I'm going to stop the share for a second.
Is it a link? Maybe you can send the link to Laura.
Yeah, are they online anywhere that I can grab them?
Oh yeah, okay, I can do that. I can send the link to you. Let me get.
Oh, actually, hold on. Huh, I think I just grabbed it off of the live stream. Yep, got it. Okay.
Okay.
Hold on. Don't mute it. Drag it all the way back. Make it big.
Extra
Oh
credit.
no, I'm sorry. I grabbed the live stream. Sorry. I'm a schmuck. I just grabbed the live stream. My bad. Okay, so I did not grab the link. My apologies.
If I did unmute?
Yeah, I did, right.
Let me see. But I thought you had turned the sound all the way off.
I muted the sound on system preferences, but you unmuted it. And you can play your video.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's a link, I can play it.
Let me just find. I can't even find my slideshow now. I had too many things open. Where is it? Oh, here we are. Okay, so the link, can I just tell you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's www.atthemac.org/events/Cleve, CLEVE -Carney, CARNEY.
Well, sorry, CLEVE.
Right, dash Carney, CARNEY.
Uh-huh.
Here, I was trying to also cut and paste it, but dash FRIDA dash KAHLO. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna
404 not found,
chat.
but I might be able to get to it. I'm at the Mac. Be the first to know. Music on Fridays. I don't see it.
Buttons to paste on what's the command for paste?
Um,
The Mac.
Command C to copy, Command V.
I put the link in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Ah, brilliant. Oh, I used the wrong, silly me, I used the wrong, well, that's where I'm coming from. I don't, ah, there's the video. I see the video now. Stop. Unmute. Pull back. Make big. Alt tab. Like you need to all hear every step I'm doing. Share screen. Share with sound. Oh, here.
She was an artist of the people and by the people.
She was a revolutionary.
She was a bit of a controversial figure.
She was an outspoken female artist.
She was a strong Latino woman.
She was a fashion icon.
She was confined to a hospital bed.
She was larger than life.
She was in the movie Coco.
She has empowered so many people.
She's become an icon.
In the beginning of June 2021, we'll be hosting the largest exhibition of original Frida Kahlo works in the Chicagoland area in over 40 years. The collection of the Dolores Olmedo Museum is the largest private collection of Frida Kahlo works in the world. This is the type of exhibition that would be a big deal for any museum. So it's a very exciting opportunity for the public and also for the College of DuPage.
From the moment you step onto our campus, you're going to be immersed in this experience of Frida. From a garden walkway to a historical timeline to a children's area, there's something for everyone.
There'll be 26 original works, over 100 images from her life, recreations from her house, of her dresses, of the orthopedic corsets that she was forced to wear. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to stand in front of some of her greatest masterpieces.
Seeing them in person is unlike any other opportunity that you'll have, like, you know, the Mona Lisa. You've seen a million reproductions of it, but to see it in person is a different thing.
When you have the paintings and the drawings, those are the things that she spent hours with. The dust of the room when she made them is captured in that paint. Those are the closest things we have to actually spending time with Frida Kahlo.
When you actually see the real thing, there's an experience that will stay with you for the rest of your life.
Okay, now I have to. I know, so now I've got to find the Zoom thing so I can share my screen. Ah, okay. So just a little background about Frida's life. And I sent a link to you, Laura, for this next short video.
Got it.
I said I was sharing my screen, but it's not.
Think you are now.
Oh, I sure am. All in all of its glory.
I know.
Do you find that link?
Oh yeah, are you ready for it?
Yeah, so
Okay,
this
sorry.
is just a little background about Frida. It's just a really brief.
It's gonna bump you off when I start sharing, so my apologies.
In 1925, Frida Kahlo was on her way home from school in Mexico City when the bus she was riding collided with a streetcar. She suffered near-fatal injuries to her spine, pelvis, and hips and was bedridden for months afterward. During her recovery, she had a special easel attached to her bed so she could practice painting techniques. When she set to work, she began to paint the world according to her own singular vision. Over the course of her life, she would establish herself as the creator and muse behind extraordinary art. Though you may have met KAHLO's gaze before, her work provides an opportunity to see the world through her eyes. She painted friends and family, still lives and spiritual scenes, but it was her mesmerizing self-portrait which first caught the world's attention. In an early work, Self-Portrait with Velvet Dress, the focus is on her strong brows, facial hair, long neck, and formidable stare. Such features remained, but KAHLO soon began to present herself in more unusual ways. For example, the broken column uses symbolism, religious imagery, and a ruptured landscape to reveal her physical and mental state. In 1928, KAHLO started dating fellow painter Diego Rivera. They became lifelong partners and cultivated an eccentric celebrity. Together, they traveled the world and dedicated themselves to art, communist politics, and Mexican nationalism. KAHLO and Rivera shared a deep affinity with Mexicanidad, a movement which celebrated indigenous culture after the revolution. In her daily life, KAHLO wore a traditional Tejuano dress and immersed herself in native spirituality. And in her work, she constantly referenced Mexican folk painting, incorporating its bright colors and references to death, religion, and nature. With her imagery of giant floating flowers, undulating landscapes, transplanted body parts, and billowing clouds of demons, KAHLO has often been associated with surrealism. But while surrealists use dreamlike images to explore the unconscious mind, KAHLO used them to represent her physical body and life experiences. Two of her most explored experiences were her physical disabilities and her marriage. As a result of the bus accident, she experienced lifelong health complications and endured many hospitalizations. She often contemplated the physical and psychological effects of disability in her work, painting herself in agony, recuperating from operations, or including objects such as her back brace and wheelchair. Meanwhile, her relationship with Rivera was tempestuous, marked by infidelity on both sides. At one point, they even divorced, then remarried a year later. During this period, she painted the double self-portrait, The Two Fridas, which speaks to the anguish of loss and a splintered sense of self. The Frida to the left has a broken heart, which drips blood onto her old-fashioned Victorian dress. She symbolizes a version of the artist who is wounded by the past, but is also connected by an artery to a second self. This Frida is dressed in Tejuana attire, and although she remembers Diego with the tiny portrait in her hand, her heart remains intact. Together, the two suggest a position caught between past and present, individuality and dependency. KAHLO died in 1954 at the age of 47. In the years after her death, she experienced a surge in popularity that has lasted to this day. And although her image has proliferated, KAHLO's body of work reminds us that there are no simple truths about the life, work, and legacy of the woman behind the icon. Rather, she put multiple versions of her reality on display and provided us with a few entryways into the contents of her soul. Keep learning about inspiring women throughout history with this playlist.
What is history?
It'd be fun to look at that.
That's next week.
There is some nasty ones, but who's the worst? That video is excellent, by the way.
Yeah, so any reactions to either of those videos?
I like the description of I really that
Yeah.
symbolism. Yeah, so that was nice. But I think at the exhibit when I was there, it was really crowded, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time on reading about the painting. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I don't think that particular painting is part of the exhibit.
The two Fridas now.
But it is, but it's a very iconic one.
Right.
But
And a lot of the works are connected
Yeah.
with the arteries.
Right.
And body parts.
Body parts, right? Yeah. Any other thoughts? You want to rush home and see that next video, don't you? Okay. So actually, I'm ahead of myself because this scrolls differently than my computer does, so. Okay. I really want that. Okay. So, so this series is called Art and Our Faith. And so when Joanne asked me to do something about FRIDA, and I knew a little bit about FRIDA, I'm like, how am I going to make this about our faith? And in fact, I was talking to another one of the docents at College of DuPage this past week, Chuck Boone, who's a professor of art there. And he also has a master's degree in theology. And so I said, I'm doing a thing at my church about FRIDA and our faith. And he's like, oh. But then he posed some interesting questions. So as those of you who know a little bit of the background of FRIDA, she lived a pretty unconventional life as an adult. However, she was raised by a very, very devoutly Catholic mother. And so you see the influence of that Catholicism in some of her work, and also, as mentioned in the film, some of the indigenous religion. But FRIDA's father was German and was not really a religious person, but he was a photographer, and he took a picture of her at her first communion. And she later, on the back of the picture, scribbled idiota, which clearly means she thought, well, that was a stupid thing to do, right? So she kind of repudiated her Catholic upbringing, and she became part of the communist revolution in Mexico. But you can still see a lot of religious symbols in her work. And I think also any piece of art can speak to us. Like we talked the first week of the series, David had us all talk about, what's the difference? Is there a difference between an aesthetic experience and a religious experience? And we had varying views on that, but I thought that what we might want to do is spend a few minutes just looking at a couple of the paintings that are part of the College of DuPage exhibit and just see how they speak to you. So, and maybe also what might that bring out in terms of our involvement? Like when I was talking to Professor Boone, he said, she was in an accident where a metal handrail impaled her in the hip and came out her pelvis. And what do we as a church say to that? And so I think that's something that's a question we can do too, is when we see these situations, how do we respond as Christians? And how does our faith inform how we deal with these issues? So this is one of her very famous paintings. You saw that in the video, The Broken Column. And this was done later in her life. She died in 1945. So this was toward the end of her life. I believe it was in 1944 that her leg was amputated. She died in 54. Oh, okay. Okay. You're right.
I'm surprised I didn't hear about it.
She was was she 47 when she died?
She was 47.
Yeah, I think that's where I got all confused. Yeah.
And I was 3 when she died. We never talked about it in my house.
You were what?
3.
No, you weren't. In 1947?
Oh, I thought
it was 4 years before you were born. Oh, 54. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 54. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. We never talked about it. No?
No? Okay. But you can see the pain in this. If you look closely, you can see tears in her eyes, nails in her skin.
Which is a common theme of martyr images in throughout Christian art. Having nails in the skin or arrows or various things.
Her face is strong and defiant. So even though she has tears, and even though she's obviously in pain, her face is strong and defiant.
Good point.
Everything's going to hell around her in that, horrible landscape and stuff, but she's strong. So she's facing her pain. She's facing the world with strength, and how she does it. I know.
Yeah, I when I see this image, it just reminds me that all of her self-portraits, but not all of her images of other people have that direct eye forward perspective. And I think in this image in particular, it really shows her awareness and understanding of eyes as the window to the soul, and also as the way to see into the soul of others. So that's one of the things that I notice about this. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say.
So when you see this in the exhibit, it's really a lot of her work is really, really painstakingly small, tiny brush strokes. So when you see it bigger, like, it looks like you're going to see this big painting and stuff. It's not. Most of the works are pretty diminutive, as she was. But the power of it is just incredible that, she's enduring all this pain, but yet can look at the world head on and face whatever comes next.
So I remember something from a class long ago. Is one of the things is to look for where the light is coming from. And, it's not, sometimes classically in pictures of the saints, you see this big light source and they're all looking like that. But in this picture, it's straight on at her. Which, I don't know what that means. It's just an observation.
It's just a scarred landscape. Like kind of a
yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be saying something towards the effect of the light is coming from the viewer? How you view it determines what it is.
Or as a self-portrait.
It seems in Mexico, religion permeates their life. And a friend of mine kind of mused, he actually used to hang out with Diego Rivera. He said on Sundays they would have these potlucks, they all get together. And they were staunch communists. But their kids were named Jesus, Mary, Joseph. It just,
So when you look at this and you think about your own faith and belief, does this say anything to you?
When I attended the exhibit, I found so much of her work. It's not comfortable. It's not the pretty picture that you hang above your fireplace. But it's so challenging, so thought-provoking. And to me, that's like faith. My faith isn't always comfortable. And the more I think I know, the less I know. It's that kind of thing for me.
That's interesting, yeah. Thank you, Michael.
And Christianity certainly doesn't say that, suffering is alien to the Christian life or anybody's life. And suffering is throughout Scripture, is throughout our lives, and there's no getting out of it.
And when I look at this is what was going on underneath the beautiful exterior she presented. And I think that it's kind of a reminder to me that people around us and us, that we're suffering, that there's things going on, that there's pain that maybe we don't see. That
She was a strikingly beautiful woman.
She really was.
She was a strikingly beautiful woman, but she's presenting herself as much more than that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And she really, in terms of beauty, kind of went against some conventional standards, like letting the monobrow grow in and letting her mustache show. And even in this painting, you can see, you know, she's got the hairs above her lip. She paints those in. It's, you know.
She's not afraid to paint the weakness underneath everything.
Mm-hmm.
And just someone who would do reveal so much is incredibly strong.
Yeah, you're right. She reveals a lot about herself, doesn't she? And was anybody able to read what Lindsay put in the chat? I'm having trouble finding the chat on here.
Here, I'll read it out loud. The inner column within reminds me of the upper part of a cello. And when I think about that from the shape of her body, looks rather cello-like to me, which makes me think of inner music, broken but still there, an inner music low and melancholy but beautiful. Oh, Lindsay, that's amazing.
That's very cool, Lindsay. Okay, let's just look at another painting. This one's a little fuzzy and a little harder to see, but this is a portrait that she did of Luther Burbank, who was a botanist. And paintings like this, I think, are reasons that people have thought that she was a surrealist, but she said she's not a surrealist. She paints what she sees.
Symbolist. She's a symbolist.
Yes, so she paints symbols, but it's not surrealist painting. So you can see here, well, what do you think when you look at that painting?
To me, it's kind of a circle of life because Luther's corpse buried in the ground is below him, but a new figure, a new Luther is rising from his corpse. So it's kind of a circle of life kind of thing to me.
Which seems really appropriate for a botanist portrait, right?
Yeah, but it's also a faith, you know, it's a statement of faith too, because, you know, that's what he's being resurrected as a new entity from his dead body.
Yeah. Good.
And he has a certain bland expression on his face. You
know, when I look at this picture, I see this realization that we are all connected, not just in the circle of life, but, you know, we are a part of the earth and we can't get away from that. And we are expressing our own aspect of our relationship to being members of the planet. It seems to be, to me, a really powerful image for what we're going through today with our climate change. So I didn't necessarily, I know that the skeleton below was, I think she painted him. Well, I don't know for sure if she painted, that was her intention, that was his skeleton, but you know, we're a skeleton, but we're not the skeleton. You know, it's there. It doesn't matter whose skeleton it is. It's part of the earth, and we are intimately connected with everything about this planet. We can't get away from that. But we have choices about how we express that connection.
Great. Any other thoughts? Okay, this painting is also a very small painting when you go to the exhibit, but it's called The Bus. It makes me think about the fact that she was riding on a bus similar to this when it collided with a streetcar and she was impaled with a handrail. But Anything you notice in this painting? No, if I can make it. Yeah, I know it's hard. It's.
Can you do a?
Because it's on the slide, whenever I click on it, it just takes me to the next slide.
What I noticed about the bust picture is that there, of course, are men and women, and then there are all social classes. So there's a middle class sort of fella in the black jacket. There's a laborer, second from the left in the overalls. They're all just sort of together. There's a mother with child, I think.
Yeah, to have a woman.
Mm-hmm. Almost a Madonna figure. Right in the center.
It reminds me of my days in New York on the subway. And because you don't know you're going to miss that when you move to the suburbs and drive your own car and everything, but the just the way that you see so much life and so many people together in one place. I think about it more now that I kind of miss it, especially with the pandemic, without going too many places. But you know, even before then, there's a difference between public transportation where you're sharing the space with so many people and you don't know where they're from or where they're going, but you're there with them. And instead of in your own isolated world, but sometimes when you ride the subway, you feel isolated even though you're surrounded by people. So it kind of speaks to me in the idea of togetherness that we take for granted until it's not part of our lives anymore. So
Yeah, there's kind of camaraderie there.
Yeah.
There's a story about New York at a subway. The elderly woman got on the subway and the young gentleman stood up and said, "You have my seat." And she was so shocked that she passed out. And then when she finally revived, she said, "Thank you." And then he passed out.
And that really happened.
I also noticed in the background, it looks like an industrial scene. There's smokestacks with smoke coming out of them.
Well, it looks to me like that on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, it looks like farmland almost. So again, kind of the contrast and variety.
This feels very different than her other works.
It does.
I feel like with the colors and just the way that she cropped and the decisions and like just the variety of people, it seems like it's really stretching outside what she created with more of the darker images of herself.
And this is an early work. She was 22 when she painted
even
this.
Her color palette seems to be brighter than most of what she painted later in life. So
maybe her pain was in this.
it's almost like this is a more joyful time for her.
Well, maybe it's a look back to before her accident.
It could have been, but 29, she was very young.
Yeah, 22. Okay, so one more to look at. This was kind of the centerpiece work of the exhibit. She did a lot of self-portraits. She did a lot of self-portraits with monkeys. So
Well, she got pregnant a couple of times, but had to, never was able to have her own child because of her being impaled with the accident. So she loved animals. She had monkeys, she had a raccoon, she had a pet deer, dogs. She had just all of these pets that, were her surrogate children, her children.
And I noticed kind of the ribbon that connects them all. So 1945, she was born in 07, so she would have been, somebody do the math, 38?
It's interesting that you say that she was born in 07 because she became such a communist that she said her birthday, she told people her birthday was 1910 after the revolution because she wanted to associate herself with this post-revolution persona. So she would, even though 1907 is her
actual
on her birth certificate.
Yeah.
She said 1910.
Or was that just the woman trying to make herself younger than she is?
Yeah, my mom did that a lot.
I know. I know. Last night, David said something about, well, when my mom was such and such an age, and I'm like, or was she? Because she lied about her age so much. Who knows how old she was?
That's before Google.
Yeah. Maybe my dad didn't know.
Yeah. Any thoughts about this?
What's the figure on the right? Is that a monkey too, or?
I know I've tried to figure out what that was. It looks more human in a way, and yet like the nose doesn't look like a monkey.
Yeah. No, it's an icon. And she often had icons in her images as well.
And Diego collected those like years.
Oh,
okay.
Right, it's not like that.
No, like there are several other paintings of her with monkeys. None of them have the little medallion. It's almost like a little medallion with her name and the date on it. I haven't seen that in any other of her works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She reminds me of Joe Crawford.
A little bit.
Yeah, I see that. They were both born the same year.
Well, so maybe Father Martz could make a comment about what the symbolism of the animals might mean with his Jungian perspective. I'd be curious to know.
I think if I could see them more clearly, I would take a go at it. But from where I am and with my vision and even memory of the exhibit, I can't see the monkey that clearly. But and just generally, we would think in terms of a more primitive world, more of a deep connection to nature. That sounds kind of disappointing for maybe what you were hoping for. But
No, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. Apologize.
Yeah, so there were a couple conversations here. Carolyn said she didn't mean to put you on the spot. And Michael's talked about, Michael was talking about the wide-eyed look of the monkey.
Who was the monkey looking at?
Yeah, so who? Well, I just want to tell you quickly about why you should go to the FRIDA KAHLO exhibit if you haven't already. A lot of times if you see art somewhere, you just see the original art, which is wonderful. You know, if you go to the Art Institute and you see the wonderful art, that's wonderful. However, I think College of DuPage did an incredible job putting together this exhibit because all they received from the museum were the 29 pieces of art. Everything else in the exhibit was done at College of DuPage. So you can see in this slide the costumes. Those were created by the costume designer at College of DuPage, and students worked with her to sew those. So there are 5 beautiful full-size costumes.
Yeah, just amazing, all that embroidery
if you've been to the art center before, what's usually is kind of seen as the lobby of the Belushi Performing Arts Center has been blocked off to be the timeline of her life. And it really is a very detailed timeline with photos and explanations. And I think that, how long do you think we spent in just looking at the timeline, David?
Not long enough.
Not long enough, but I bet we were there for at least 45 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's very detailed. And you can also purchase an audio tour, so that it will tell you as you walk through pretty much what's on the wall, but it's hard to read all that stuff that's on the wall, especially if it's crowded when you're there. So there's something to be said for the audio tour. And I say that as somebody who volunteers frequently in that area and wishes more people would come to see me and get those.
$7.
$7, yes. So, and then the bed, you can see, you'll remember earlier I mentioned the bed with the mirror over it. This bed was made by a Chicago artist just for this exhibit to be a replica of Frida's bed. There are also corsets that were made by another Chicago artist that would be similar to some of the
like
contraptions she had
the one in the broken column.
Right.
Yeah, a reproduction of that.
Right.
And a couple of her
like a leather one, and yeah, things that she would have worn because of her surgeries. So it's a very interactive timeline. I think it's really well done. And then, of course, the main star is the exhibit of the art. The museum was expanded at College of DuPage specifically for this exhibit. So there was $1 million expansion of the museum with security and air control and all of that stuff. So that was done specifically for this. And
the painting there, the second from the right, that sort of
with the purple hair.
Yeah, that does not look like her work. I mean, when I saw that, I thought it's such an odd-looking thing in the midst of all of her stuff.
Yeah, it looks kind of undone or something.
Yeah.
But is that all there is? No, there's more. There's also an exhibit of photos from her life, and mostly black and white, and some of them are very tiny, but it's really intriguing to go and look at all of those photos. And as you go down the hallway, you'll also find something called the Tres Fridas exhibit. And this is a project by 3 Chicago area women, all of whom have disabilities, and they recreate famous masterpieces that put in disabilities. So you'll notice this one, I think that's called The Lovers. It's hard to see on the screen there, but the man is in a wheelchair. And you can see the Last Supper being recreated in the photo shoot for it. And there are people with all different kinds of disabilities at the table. So the table is open to all. And the pearl earring here, there are several. There are probably about, how many, do you think 10 or 15 pieces in that?
Yeah, it's a small gallery, and you know, a lot of people would say they missed it. You know,
I see a lot of people who miss it, but I also see people coming out of it saying everybody should do that. It's really impactful to see these works of art that we're familiar with and see people with disability in those positions. Also, there's a garden that was done by the Ball Horticulture Company in West Chicago, and it replicates a part of the garden at the Blue House. So this pyramid structure, when I first saw it, I thought, that's the garden? And then when I saw the model of the Blue House that they have there, I saw that FRIDA had a similar pyramid structure in her garden. And so they replicated it here. And outside is a lovely spot with tables and umbrellas. And so if you go for the day, you can also buy drinks and snacks and go outside and enjoy them.
At the Mercado.
At the Mercado, right. And probably my favorite part, this is the part where I always want to volunteer, is the kids' corner.
It's the best.
And when people come out of
Best thing.
the Tres Fridas and they look and they see it's the kids' area, they start to walk the other direction. And I say, no, this is not just for kids' corner, or this is kids of all ages corner. But there are so many cool things in this part.
There's a great video.
Wonderful video.
The video that is in here is just absolutely wonderful. I tried to see if I could find it to show it here, but it's not available online as far as I can tell.
Local artist Mike Beneza, who's written over 100 books about famous authors and famous composers and stuff. We collaborated on this, and it's so colorful and it's so beautiful. And there's coloring sheets for the kids, and a lot of the sculptures, like Diego collected, and they're all facsimiles, but that's all in there. Giant puppet, and it's really cool.
That's the cake on the left.
Yeah, this is the cake that was made 2 years ago by the culinary arts faculty and students for the kickoff of the FRIDA exhibit that was supposed to be last year. And clearly it's not a cake that you would eat. I mean, it doesn't, but because it's held up for 2 years. You know, sometimes when I've enticed people to come to the kids' corner, I'm like, oh, you gotta see the cake, and they're like, oh, there's cake, and I'm like, you're not gonna eat it. But the video, Diana Martinez, who's the executive director of the MAC, wrote the video, and a local artist narrates it in front of the Blue House, and it's really incredibly well done. And then it has as Jan mentioned, it has the cartoon animals that Mike Beneza drew, and it's really fun. And you can see on the table up here in the upper right, there's a mirror there, because to do the self-portraits, they have mirrors so that kids and adults can do their self-portraits. And there's a model of the Blue House that was done by White and Company. They did the outer structure. The people, the staff of the MAC did the inside. And then I just thought I'd end with this very little known FRIDA masterpiece. And but no, this is in the kids area too, so you can put your heads through and get your picture. And there's David and I being Diego and FRIDA.
Oh, master.
So,
Yes, thank you so much.
well, thank you all for coming. And
That's great.
If you've gone to the exhibit, you do make a chance to go. And if you've gone already, you may want to go back and take advantage of those $10 tickets on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan, for coming and contributing.
I love FRIDA so much.
It was great. Thank you.